Good morning, dear people from abroad, from England and other countries. Here is Carlos Arias, Huiracocha Camayok. I am doing this film with my rusty English because I want to tell you about something that we do in Peru, and it will be very short. Really, my English is bad, and just let me see if I can look if it's everything going okay, so I can start with the live stream. Um, just a moment, I have to check it out. Or if you are listening to it and you think it's everything okay, just let me know. Well, I'm just gonna check, and that's it. Let's see. Let's see. I'm going to put it up. Have to do it a little bit. Okay, dear people from England, America, and all the countries that speak English, I just want to talk today about a species of frog that we have in Peru. First of all, you have to know the frogs are suffering from illness. One of them, it's type of virus. It's not really a virus. It is called Batrachochytrium dendrobatidis, and this one is like the AIDS for the frogs. It's killing frogs all over the world, and we are trying to save frogs since more than 20 years and trying to work against this disease. For that, many institutions have gathered up to help the frogs all over the world. The only problem is, or I will tell you this before we start, I will start the point. Many frogs have many problems in the world. One of them is when they throw waste in the places where the frogs live, and with that they destroy their environment. Second thing is the introduction of foreign species. It's something very bad, like for example in Australia with the big cane toad. In our country, the worst thing that happened is that since the 1900s, they introduced trout and a second species that are destroying the lakes and eating all the fish that are living in these thousands from lakes that we have in the Andes. The next thing that we have for a problem is the mines. They are working and pouring water with lots of minerals into the lakes where the frogs live. Another thing is that because of we have a lot of 70 to 80% poor people, these people search for resources to feed or also to sell in the markets. And so many frogs, many aquatic frogs from Peru are being sold in the markets to be eaten or to be made juice. In Peru, unfortunately, many people talk about healing ways, and some of them say, yeah, eating frogs in juice is very good because it will help you for your kidneys and for your prostata and many things like this, things that are not proved and just a way to make their money. Nevertheless, we must not forget that many animals come from the jungle, and in the jungle also it's a big problem. The next problem that we have is that we have a lot of corruption, and I must say I was an officer in the Ministry for Agriculture back there 20 years ago, and even though we made our best efforts, I saw many things that were not supposed to be done like that. Now let's focus in Peru and what happened in Peru. So I started to study this frog 40 years ago almost. In the first year of university, I started to gather up documents about this species. We are talking about Telmatobius macrostomus. That's the real giant frog from Peru. Why do I say this? Because you find frogs to start in the size from 15 centimeters. The tadpoles are like 25 centimeters, like this. And I started to do research on this frog in my first year of university at Ricardo Palma University in Lima, Peru. I had a background. I had already aquariums and fish. So in this way, I learned about water treatment and nitrates and ammonia and all the things that we need to know about treating water and to have a healthy aquarium at home. So my background, I think, was good. I knew what I have to do with the water, which plants I have to put, how I'm going to do to bring the oxygen in the water, and everything that a person that knows about aquariums must know. So at the beginning, I started to gather up the documents and things because I thought that was very interesting, and also that I wanted to do my thesis, my biology thesis in this species. So I started to look up for documents and what I should have so I can present a very good thesis at the end of my studies. So I started to do all this, and then I started to visit Junin. That is the second lake, the biggest second lake from Peru. The first one is Titicaca, and the second one is the Lake Junin, 40 kilometers long, 12 kilometers broad. So well, I went there. I was very well known. I couldn't go inside with my closed eyes because I knew the lake, and we started to do research in there. So my thesis was to see how many frogs were caught and hunted at the start. Many other scientists have seen that one single person could catch up to 120 frogs in 8 hours in a day. And at the time I came, they were catching like 20 or 15 till the numbers dropped and we came to 1 or 2 one day. Junin had a club or a group of people that gathered together to catch the frog. They were the Asociación de Pescadores de Junín de Rana. They were an association of persons that were catching the frogs, and they were trying also to give a number of animals per person, because they knew and they saw that the animal, this frog, were the numbers were coming down. In that time also I started to think if I could have in captivity these frogs. Many of the researchers that I knew and helped me told me, Carlos, you are not going to do this, or you will not succeed, because the frog needs cold water. If not, it will die. So I started to think about, and it's like this. Um, all the lakes of the Andes don't get don't get like too cold, so they can get ice on them. Never. It won't happen, never. Even though they are 5,000 meters high. Why? Because water takes the energy from the sun. So these lakes are in the highlands, but the sun is a sun from the tropics. We don't have to forget that South America is very close to the equator, so the sun burns there, and so it heats the lakes, and the water is still cold, but it will never get ice on the water. So that's how the frogs live there. And even though that the water is cold, and for that, if you are in aquaristics, you know cold water has a very high amount of oxygen. So I said, what happens if I take it out in places where they live? So they will get cold, they will freeze. Why? Because we're talking about big bodies of water in the Andes. If you take it out in an aquarium and you put it in a house in the same level where they live, this small body of water in the aquarium will freeze. So the frog will go from very, very cold to very high, because the sun, if you put the aquarium outside where the sun is burning, it will be very hot. So up and down and up and down. So that's not good. I took it to Peru, to Lima. I had aquariums, and I started my work and my trials. Many people told me, no, Carlos, you won't succeed, it won't work, because they are specialized to very cold waters, and that was not true. And what happened? You have to think and to know about water, and when you try to think, what should I do to put more oxygen to the water? So when you do this, you come to the thought, I can't cool it down, but I can improve the oxygen amount in the water. How we can do that? You have to move the water so much as you can. So I did this, and they lived. Not only that, I started to offer many types of foods, and it worked. It didn't work only for the Junin frog, it worked for all aquatic frogs of the genus Telmatobius. So, unfortunately, 20 years before, back in those times, no one had interest for this frog. I did. I kept on doing it, even though no one supported me. Thank God I went to Jersey Wildlife Preservation Trust. I did my training course there for species in extinction. We helped there, and thing is, I presented this work there. Everyone in herpethology didn't want to know about it. Every scientist in Peru were thinking, or was thinking, on the jungle in Peru. No one was putting its eye on the Andes, because it was boring. It's very, very few species, and they don't want to do that because the money was in the jungle with the foreigners that came to Peru all the time to work, Dr. Dullman and many others. So I kept doing this till the time I came to Germany. I had many other species in aquariums. They were doing well. Unfortunately, I went to Jersey. I left all my frogs to someone. He didn't take all the measurements I did, and my frogs died. I did my thesis on the frog. Before that, I was an officer for the Ministry of Agriculture. I told the people that we have to help the frog of Junin. Why? Because the lake of Junin has been destroyed since more than 50 years. There is a mine in Cerro de Pasco, and this mine in Cerro de Pasco, the water that comes out with high levels of minerals like copper and other minerals have been going to the lake. The mine paid an American company to do research on the lake and to see how much contamination this lake has. The conference with the results was given in English, and they said many things that the people didn't understand. But at last it came a document, a scientific research, a paper, and the lake had 300 more times minerals and pollution as any other natural lake in Peru. Also, the lake from one day to another started, some people in Junin told me, Carlos, the frogs are gone. They were found dead from today and we don't find any more. Another problem that we had is that someone had put trout in this lake, and the trouts were being put in every lake in the Andes. What happened with this? They destroyed all the fish, the native fish. They are called orestias, and this fish was the primarily food of the frog of Junin. The frog of Junin that you don't find, that's a normal frog, okay? The frog of Junin is like this when you find it. It's like 15 centimeters, this is 7 centimeters, and we talk about the sizes from here, from the snout, to the vent, here, to the end. That's the size of a frog when we talk about size. So this one has like 7 centimeters, and frog of Junin is double, like this. That's the common size of the frog of Junin. There are many cases where fishermen caught 30 centimeters of frog. We will see the pictures, I'll show it to you. The next thing, the problems that we have had in the lake is that they started to catch the frog to eat. So you could find 20 years ago lots of restaurants where they were selling the frogs already peeled with no skin and ready to be fried. But not only that, you could find the frogs being sold in the markets and outside the markets to be eaten in soup, or to be cooked, or to be I think mixed for juices. So they do this still. When they started to see that there was no more Junin frogs, they started to go on the toads, and they started to go to in any other species that you have in the Andes. We have a lot of species of Telmatobius, so they started to get to those. And then we start to get into the Titicaca frog, the aquatic frog of Titicaca. Well, I started to do many things for that, but unfortunately, they never took into attention what I said. I worked in the ministry, I said this, because in the Lake Junin we have two endemic species. A grebe, that's a type of of duck. I'm sorry, but I'm telling you just like this so you can imagine what is that. It's a species of bird specialized to dive, and they go inside the water. They come out to land almost never, or very very rare, because these animals have developed all their body to dive and to fish and to eat in the lake, to sleep in the lake, and the feet are brought very very to the rear of the body, so the animal is very clumsy in the at land, and it cannot fly. So this grebe eats fish, and there's a species in the Lake Hunin which is in very great danger of disappearing because of all these problems in the lake. The other problem in the lake is that all the towns around the lake are throwing their sewage into the lake. So you will see pictures where you'll see trash in the lake. You will see a brown lake that is because of these mines up in the river that comes to the lake. The problem also from the lake is that it is the start of a very important river that is called Mantaro River. And this Mantaro River is being used to produce electricity. So in the lake was being done a dam, and this dam opens and closes because they need the water to be more or less for this electricity to be worked out. So one of the things they have been doing is doing this, which brings to letting the animals with no water, so they were suddenly with no water and dying in dry conditions. The grebes have been suffering this, the frogs, and also the fish from the Lake Hunin, if you ever find any fish at all. I went to Germany. I started to live here. I am already 20 years here. I forgot my English, very sorry. And people started to work on the Titicaca frog of Lake Titicaca, but there were many problems there. Maybe you don't know, but that's the better example what can propaganda do. So they started to say the Titicaca frog is the giant frog of the lake and from Peru and Bolivia, so we have to help it. And they said it's going to extinction because it's being sold in very big amounts in the markets. There's a lot of pollution, and there's also trout and a second species of fish that is eating the frogs. But the biggest danger is that the people are eating the frogs also for juices, just the same thing as the frog of Junin. Thing is that a project that we had in Titicaca is called the PELT. On Spanish is pelt. So they were doing works. One of the works they were doing is, and there was the worst work, is to do a dam in the Desaguadero. It is called drainage river. We said no, that is no good. We must not do artificially bringing down the water level from Titicaca Sea. It is lake is no good. They did it still. They didn't care what we said as specialists in the Ministry of Agriculture. They did it, but they didn't do that. Also, they caught frogs without our permission, and they started to breed it, to hold it in captivity, trying to breed it. They did a document. You can find the document in the web about captive breeding of the Titicaca frog. All of that, I must tell you, is a lie. They just got adults. They let the adults lay eggs, but they didn't know all the things they have to do to raise the tadpoles, so they lost everything. Same thing happened with a species of bird that is like ostrich. They lost everyone because of the lack of knowledge, because of the lack of specialists, because of the lack of the know-how how to take care of these animals. The frog of Titicaca, the size when you get them is like 3 centimeters, and you get an animal this size or less that starts to breed after 2 years. 1 year as a tadpole and 1 year as adult, and then you will start to get eggs. They are not too complicated, but the thing is, all the things they've been saying are wrong. The frog of Titicaca Lake is not the giant frog of Peru and Bolivia. That's not true. Second thing what is not true is that this animal is in very strong danger of extinction. Why? The only person that did a very good census or how many frogs are in the lake was Jacques Cousteau. In those times, I think it was in the 70s, he went in the lake to count how many frogs there were. And he got a very big amount, like more than 2,000 animals in one day with 4 scuba divers. They did the PELT project did the same thing, but for that you must be a good diver. You must have the equipment, and you must look in the places you must where the frogs are hiding. So take into account, you can find some frogs on the very, very low parts of the Titicaca, but if you go in the deep, you have to search for them, and it's not easy. The frogs are disguise themselves with the colors, and you don't find them very, very easy. So one of the counts of frogs was 2 frogs in the near from the island from Amantani, and 20 in another place, and 30 in another place. And that was wrong. Why? I've been going to Lake Titicaca, and I've been looking this. I go every year. Because of the pandemic, I couldn't go anymore. But if there were 2 frogs in Amantani that were found, it is not possible, because you can still find a lot of subadults, juveniles, all around the island under the rocks. And you have to take into account, you can, if you have a 30 centimeters frog, maybe you think this frog lays 1,000 from eggs, and from these eggs you have like 300 frogs. It's not like that. It's not true. The frog of Titicaca lays like 100 eggs, but from this you get like 25, 30 tadpoles, and that it's like I'm telling you, because I've been talking to many zoos here in Europe, and they have the same results. So unfortunately, I must tell you that we in Peru have a problem with money. So many scientists that started to work and were specialized in the jungle came back and said, I'm a specialist for frogs. Which problems does the frog from Titicaca has? One of these problems are these people that say, I'm a specialist. So these specialists have shown themselves in the gatherings, in the meetings, everywhere as a specialist. They are not a specialist. Why? This problem. For the Titicaca frog, they said the frog is in danger, we have to help it, and we have to do this and that. That was not the truth, because you have still frogs. There are no divers that can go 100 meters deep or 200, because that's the deepest parts of the Lake Titicaca are 200 meters deep, and no one has gone there. The frogs live there, they don't have a problem, and no fish will go against them, and they can lay eggs. We don't know how many eggs can produce this big animals, but those ones can be like 15 centimeters, and that's big, but not compared with the Hunin frog. Hunin frog is the real giant frog. So what's the problem now? The problem is that many institutions in America, like the Amphibian Ark and the specialist group for amphibians in the world, have heard this distress call and helped the frog from Titicaca, and the news were spread and saying the giant frog of Titicaca needs help. Yes, it needs help. But the problem and the error is here. How can you help a frog if you don't take the measurements that the frog needs? One thing is you can do, or the efforts are to being done in situ. That means you have to work with the frog as much as possible in the place. That is not a possibility because of these problems from the high altitude and the cold. So if you take the frog out, the frog will be very cold and very hot, and those are not the best things for this frog. So you take the frog out ex situ and you bring it to another place where the temperatures are more stable. So they took it to Lima. But the thing is, if you take and you help a project to reproduce the frogs, then you have to do all the efforts to bring it back again. But how can you do a project like this without taking into account two important things? One, you have to take out or get rid of all the fish that are not endemic or are not natural to the lake. How are you going to take trout and the second species of fish that were introduced in the lake? How are you going to do that in a 300 or more square kilometers from lake? How are you going to do that? How are you going to take out all the trout from all the lakes in the Andes? That's the first thing we have to do. The second thing, and something that the project didn't take into account, is you have to raise the carrying capacity of the lake with the production of the native fish that is called Orestias. These two things were never took into account in the project. And that's the problem why the project of the supposed giant frog, Titicaca's frog, is not working. The frog has been successfully bred in captivity. It started in the zoo from Huachipa. Huachipa is being closed now because lack of money, and the whole frogs are in desperate need of help because they don't know where the frogs are going to go. The frogs were sent to Denver. Denver bred them and they started to spread the frogs everywhere. So the frogs came to Austria in the zoo, in the Mares Zoo. I've visited the Mares Zoo. They are doing a super job. I saw them. You can see them in the YouTube. They went to Prague in Czechoslovakia. They have been breeding the frogs successfully. They went to Münster and they went to Düsseldorf. But again, if we do these projects, we have to help the frog in the best way. And I have to say, I talked to the curator of the Düsseldorf Zoo, and they just got frogs a year ago from Denver. What did they do? Unfortunately, they don't know too much about this frog. They did a greenhouse that will be very hot on summer and very cold on winter. So if you do a breeding project, your efforts are not to give too much money and to hold the project so cheap as possible. How come you do this? That's a very big failure from the people from Düsseldorf Zoo. You can see the pictures. If you write Düsseldorf Zoo, or if you want, I'll show you the pictures. That for me is a big error, because if you have a place that is underneath the earth, this place, as we have here in Germany, is cold, and that's the cheapest way to hold the frogs here. What you can give to the frogs, you can give worms, you can breed guppies, you can breed, or you can buy tubifex, you can buy, if you have eggs from these frogs, if you breed the frogs, you can start giving them dry food and they will start to accept it. That's the way they do in every zoo in Germany, in Czechoslovakia, in Austria, in Spain, and other places. Well, people, we need help for the frog of Junin. The frog of Junin is the real giant frog of Peru, of South America. There's no frog, no aquatic frog bigger of the Junin frog. I will show it to you. And the other thing is, we have to work with this, but I told you already all the problems that we have. The last problem that has come to be taken into account is this one. Many scientists, well-known scientists, say now they are specialists, which they are not, and also they give wrong knowledge to the institutions that try to help the amphibians to be gone from extinction. Not only this is also a problem because only the scientists that are well known are being helped, and people like me, which I don't have a very good name because I disappeared, and also in Peru there's a lot of problems with this. Everyone talks bad about many others, and I try to help this frog now, and all the doors are being closed for me. Why? Because this guy is talking bad about me with this guy, and this guy is talking bad about me with this guy, and so on. I can tell you with names who are doing this, and one of them is in Chester Zoo, the other one is in Dusseldorf, the other one is in America, and so on. And in Peru, not to mention it. The only thing is, we have to help the frog, we have to help it with the right things to be done. I can tell you efforts were done in Bolivia, but unfortunately the scientists in Bolivia, in Cochabamba, didn't know about the biology of the frogs. I've been there. They spent the money to buy 2 containers with air conditioners to keep the water cool, and also they had, as far as they told me, a whole filtration that was connected with all aquariums. If you are if you work with aquariums, you never do this. To connect the filtering with all the aquariums, that is criminal. If you do this and a disease appears, all the aquariums will be infected. Not only this, they use many things I will never use with the frogs, the aquatic frogs, because they have a very slender skin. They use bricks, and bricks is like sandpaper. You don't use this when you try to breed frogs, because if they scratch themselves, that's a door to bacteria. Unfortunately, there are many people that have been doing this, but without knowledge. So now, people, I will tell you and I will show you what I'm talking about from the frogs, and I hope you understand. Please forgive me of my very bad English. I hope you understand, and I'm going to start with the picture so I can show you all of this. Okay, I hope you see it, and you tell me, you let me know if there's something you're not looking at. Okay, people, so I hope you see it. This frog, these tadpoles are the tadpoles that they got when they were breeding, let's say breeding the frog in the place where the frog comes, like 70 kilometers away from the lake. That was a project that was done 30 years ago by the Ministry of Fisheries in Huancayo. This place is called Awaicha. They got eggs, they got tadpoles, but because of the lack of knowledge, they lost all of the tadpoles. That's the size of the frog. This is a 15 centimeters frog that I was raising and breeding in my house in Lima back on the 1990s. That's my aquarium. You can see here the filter. The filter is taking water here up to this motor, and the water drops again here, helping the frogs to have the water with lots of oxygen. This one is a frog that I found in the Lake Junin. I found it myself. This one's others I bought in the market, but this one I found in the lake. She was very nice frog. These pictures are from Heinz Planch. He's one of the best photographers of Peru. He helped me that time so I can have good pictures from the species. You can find these pictures in the Wikipedia because I put it there now. And the thing is that I hold this species like for more than 1 year. Unfortunately, due to lack of interest, due to lack of support, I lost all the animals. This is like Junin. As I told you, it is between Junin province and Cerro de Pasco. That was the times where it was very nice. Here, if you see here this flat place, that is the Inca Trail that goes up to Ecuador. That is while I was doing my thesis, and I visited some captive breeding centers of this frog. They were not captive breeding center. That was only people that were getting money and saying they are doing this. They were not, unfortunately. They were doing the wrong things. The things here were at the level of the Titicaca or the Junin Lake, and that's not the way to breed the frog. These are the late hunters of the frog. They did they constructed a boat with this metal sheets that they were sold to make the, how do you call this, for the houses, for the top of the houses. So from this they did the boats, and they used this harpoon to catch the frogs 2 meters deep. They never got into the lake to dive to catch them. This person is one of the most well-known persons in Junin. He is he has supported many scientists in Junin, and he was the head of the Hunters Club, Mr. Francisco Tueros, and he helped me a lot. We went into the lake many times. While I was doing my thesis, I got the best fishermen, and they went to do the monitoring in many other lakes to see the frogs. So they saw frogs in other lakes that were brought there, but unfortunately, because of the droughts that they brought in, the frog has been suffering a lot of problems. I got the help from the German office that helped also the Ministry of Agriculture, and they helped me in my thesis with a car to bring me everywhere. That's another lake. In Peru you can find thousands of lakes in the Andes, so that's another lake. We went in to see if there were frogs there. That's another lake. Unfortunately, as you see here, those are mining places, so the waste of these mines go inside the lake. As you can see here, those are cages where they are holding trouts, and many of them get into the lake and live there now. And that's a very bad thing against the frogs. Those are other cages that are floating cages to keep trouts and to breed them. That's the zodiac I used to go in the lake to see if there were frogs there. This is the small river that goes into the Lake Junin. In this river you can find the tadpoles. They are very big. They are like 20 centimeters long. They are huge. We will see some tadpoles in a paar minutes. That's the end of Lake Junin, where all the sediments, the minerals can be seen. You can see the water here. It's brown. It's the huge. It's a huge amount of pollution here. This is a machine that moves the sediment so the water can flow into the dam. This is the place where the water from the lake comes out and builds, or where it starts, the river of Mantaro. That's the dam. Look at the color of the water, full with minerals. So this is a picture where you can see all the contamination that is being done by the sewage. People throw everything inside. You can find plastic bottles. You can find everything you want. Food and diapers and things like that. This happens still in Junin Lake. And this lake is almost dead. So the frog doesn't have so much time. If you want to help, please help me. We have the Amphibian Ark. We have the Amphibian Specialty Group. I will be very happy to help this species. These are the Orestias that die in the lake in big amounts. You find it in the lowest parts of the lake, dead. Same thing with the frogs. You find a lot of dried frogs all around the lowest parts of the lake, dead. That's another visit to a captive breeding place, which in real it's not breeding anything because the people lack of knowledge. You cannot try to have the frogs in these small ponds because the water will be very cold, and also when the sun comes it will be very hot, so it's not the best conditions. As you can see here, that's the market in Huancayo. The frogs from Junin are being sold here. You can see the size of these animals in comparison to the other size of frogs, aquatic frogs from other places. That's another species. There are more frogs here that are dried. They used to sell them in big amounts in the market from Huancayo, but not anymore. As you can see here is meat and also frogs here in big amounts, dried also. Those are aquatic frogs and toads. This is a picture of frogs being sold in a restaurant in Oroya. In the Oroya restaurants, that's a place where mining is very strong, and the frogs are being brought from Junin to Oroya. And from Junin to Oroya there is like 3 hours in bus. These are frogs that you found being sold in the market in Huancayo. From these frogs I bought like 4 or 5 because I wanted to help them, and I wanted to do my research in captive breeding. These are other species of aquatic frogs. You can see many of them are alive, but many of them are dying because of lack of oxygen. Another person that is selling frogs in the outside from the market. From here I bought also frogs. As you can see here, they are selling like beverages. that help you to for your sexual problems when you have impotence and or you have other problems. They say frogs help you if you drink juice with these animals. Because of the lack of the species, you find here the toads from the Andes being sold, and also for the same purposes, to do the juice. That's a place where they sold frogs. This lady let me take a picture of that. She's selling a juice mixed with frogs. This lady is no more alive. She passed away like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. She was very nice, but I told her she must not do this. It's not helping. These are frogs also being sold in another place where they sell juices. Look the size of the Junin frog, and these sizes are the size of the common Titicaca frogs, even though these are not Titicaca lake frogs. Another place where they sell frogs. These are very small frogs. That is pictures of the La Guaycha captive breeding center, which tried and tried and tried, but unfortunately lack of knowledge didn't have success on the reproduction. But one thing that happened is they brought so many frogs that the frogs spread somehow in other places. So even though Lake Junin, where we found the biggest population of frogs, now Lake Junin has a big amount frogs that are being found in other places, but it's not the same amount. That's the place where they had the tadpoles, and those are the tadpoles. These animals are like 20 centimeters big. This one is already changing, but this is a little a tadpole that is a little bit skinny, but they can be very big. That's a male frog. You will see here the culeus, or that's something that which you can identify a male frog from Junin. Those are ponds that were used to breed the frog, and these ones are the frogs that were found. The biggest frogs of Junin that were found. You can see that's a ruler, 30 centimeters long. These frogs are this size, even though they are very strongly stuffed with cotton, but from here to the snout the size is 30 centimeters. These animals are the biggest ones, and I will say those are the biggest frogs of Peru. The giant frog, the real giant frog of Peru, is this one. Well, people, I will do this film also in German because I am searching and looking for help. I am asking the people from Ark and also the people from the amphibian specialist group if they could help me. I am here in Germany. In Germany we have all the equipments. I am talking to the people in Junin. I know the people from Junin. I knew on those days the former how do you call this, the person that was in charge of Junin. He's my friend. He's still alive, thank God. Right now he's going through COVID, unfortunately, but he's helping me because we have to have the permission of the region from Junin that we will have, and we will have also a place to breed the frog in Junin because it is important. The zoo of Huachipa is being closed. They have 5 or 6 frogs of Junin. They are right now in great danger because they don't know where they are going to put the frogs. So people, I'm a specialist. I've been trained in Jersey Wildlife Preservation Trust. I've started to have turtles and frogs here, so I can get into a little bit of practice in this. I have the practice, I have the equipment, we can have it here, And the thing is, we have to have two populations, one very close in Peru and one in Europe. So maybe you can help us. I'm talking to many zoos in Europe. I'm talking to Prague Zoo. I'm talking to Münster Zoo. I'm talking to the zoo in Wien, in Vienna. I hope they are they will help me. Dr. Robert Reinert has shown his interest, and I hope we will come to a point where we can really help the real giant frog of Peru, the giant frog of Junin. If you want to help me, just get in contact with me. I got in contact with Jersey. The problem in Jersey, in the island of Jersey, in the Channel Islands, they don't have a very good water, so the project there is not possible. But here in Germany and in Europe, like in Austria, the water is no problem. It's very good. You have to take into account the frog. It's an easy species, the Titicaca frog, because it comes from water from the mountains, and the water here comes also from the mountains. So if you use the water from here with no treatment, it's no problem. It's the same thing in Peru, in the high Andes. So people, I hope you understood. If you have interest, just you can search me in Facebook. I am under Carlos Arias Segura. If you need my contact address and email, I will leave it here. I hope you can support, and please, people of Ark Amphibian Specialist Group, let's help this species. The frog of Junin doesn't have too long. It's in very great danger of extinction. We have to do something now. They need our help. Thank you very much, and we'll see us someday soon. Ciao. Bye.